Welcome back to the PMR podcast. My name is Mitch. I'm an alcoholic addict. This is episode 31.
31. It gets crazier and crazier every single week thinking about what we've stacked up here, man. I'm Andrew. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. Mitch, great to be back one-on-one with you, dude. Last week was fucking sick. I really enjoyed all those questions. Very grateful for everyone that sent them in. Thank you to everyone who sent questions in. It kind of reaffirms and gives me a little boost of confidence too when we get all those questions to the page, because I'm like, all right, we have some people who are interested in are invested in what we have to say and maybe are learning something. End of the day, I'm doing this for me and for you. It's a meeting for me, but it was cool, man. It was a really good episode. What did you think?
I agree. I think it's cool that the first time we did questions, we got like a couple, and this time we got 14, which is pretty cool. And it feels good to be like there's more engagement on Instagram and stuff with people like responding to posts and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool to start growing more of a community that we can see, because I know there's a good amount of people that support us from afar, or I have people that reach out. Like someone reached out a couple of days ago and said they watched all the videos, and it was like someone that I haven't talked to in a couple of years, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty fucking sick. So stuff like that is pretty fun. I've been trying to think of other ways that we could engage with people, like a live stream or something fun like that.
That'd be
I don't
cool.
know. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And we were just talking, rewatching it. The energy back and forth was pretty sick
Mm.
between us, just like bouncing from question to question. And they were all really good questions, as we made a joke about on there too. So I had a lot of
Yeah.
fun doing that one.
Yeah, it was a good challenge for us too to be brief in our
Yeah,
answers,
yeah,
because
it
so I'm
was.
usually long-winded as hell. So that was a good healthy challenge for me. And also, if anyone listening has any suggestions about how to engage, how to get like a live stream's a good idea, Mitch. We should do that, like an Instagram live or something. But any ideas too are greatly appreciated, because as Mitch very well knows, I'm technologically defunct, not very skilled with technology. So shout out Steve-O. Um but yeah, I mean that brings us into this episode. I mean, we were kind of going back and forth on a couple different ideas. We had a couple guests who might or might not have joined, and they'll probably join down the line, but ended up, it's going to be a one-on-one. And I love those because it gives us a little bit of flexibility too, like to just either chop it up or come up with a cool topic. I think we landed on something really cool. You suggested doing a passage, and one really just jumped out to me right away is the promises in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Right between step 9 and step 10 are the promises. And it's a couple paragraph passage, that kind of follows the amends process, and goes into the right before the daily inventory step. And it's something for me, and you can speak on it too before I go ahead and read it, but it's something for me that at AA meetings that I go to, this passage is read every single meeting pretty much that I go to, either at the beginning or at the end. And it's something that I have mixed, in early recovery. I've had mixed feelings about, because it's a list, and again, I'll go into it, but there's some that I would get really resentful at, like, that's never going to happen for me, that promise is never going to happen for me. But over time, it's definitely kind of changed in terms of my opinions of it, my emotions associated with it. And it's kind of a cornerstone for me in terms of AA meetings, AA program, and some of the hope that I get from meetings is really kind of summed up well in it. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I had similar feelings about like and the meetings out here or um at least the ones that I go to, we read the promises in the beginning too. And I think there's a couple like passages that are selected to read pretty much cut and paste to all meetings. And I've been in points in my recovery where I that's like, oh, this is where I can like zone out and look at my phone, or this is when I can like
Mhm.
close my eyes, or this is when I can and when I started actually listening to them and trying to like memorize them even, or like trying to like listen for favorite sentences or whatever out of those, it kind of is like a little meditation before and after the meeting. And there's a reason we read them. Obviously, they're important passages out of the entire book. Um, and I think that the more that you can focus on those and like really understand why they're the ones that are chosen to be read, um, they become more impactful, I think, each time you're in the meeting. And uh, yeah, I'm really happy and thankful that you suggested this one because that's a really good idea, and it we'll have a lot to talk about on them. But
Yeah.
um, you want to get in how we want to read it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll read it all the way through, right? And then we can break it down into sections because it's a big kind of undertaking to just talk about the whole thing. But I think it's kind of powerful to read the whole thing all the way through, just because it's as a single piece, it's kind of beautiful. Um, so
Yeah,
I'll
so
I'll just
just to preface it for the listeners at a meeting when you go sit down, because I've had a lot of people questioning like what actually happens in a meeting.
mm,
So like this passage along some other ones would be read in the beginning through like the secretary would probably pick someone before the meeting or on the fly. So Andrew, take it away.
if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Hell yeah.
It's funny.
I
I
love
get, I
the
almost get like goosebumps reading that.
yeah.
It's like I'm back. I'm like I'm in a meet. Like I'm in a meeting. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I love the are these extravagant promises? And then the whole room will be like, we think not. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if your meetings like all echo some passages like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh I did want to say real quick as you were reading that whenever we do stuff with the big book, and the big book for anyone that's wondering is actually just a big blue book, and it's just the main scripture for AA or scripture. Maybe shouldn't use the word scripture. I don't know. Uh, it's the main literature for AA. Whenever we speak on this stuff, this is just Andrew and I interpretation currently.
Mm.
So it could change. It has changed.
It'll
We're
probably
not
change
ex-
tomorrow.
Yeah, I just feel it's super important for us to always point out that we're not spokespersons for AA.
No.
That's a big thing for us. It's like written in the thing that to not speak for AA, and we're not. We're just speaking on our current understanding of it, and sharing it with you guys. So don't take anything we're saying as like, well, he said that this means, you know what I mean? It's just like how we see it. I think that's important to highlight every single time we do. We really should highlight it all the time, but especially
Mm.
when we're working on literature, because that could be confusing to someone if they didn't hear that.
Yeah, it could be misconstrued. And well, I'm not
Yeah.
an authority. Mitch isn't an authority. This is just our experience. Like, this is just our experience. So I think, to kind of dive right in, right? Like to break it down, right? This first section, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we are halfway through, right? Like, and
Mhm.
when I got to the halls, um, and really like when I was in treatment, because we'd run AA meetings and we'd do the same type of thing where we're reading the promises, we're going through all of the steps of the AA meeting, reading the preamble, everything else. Like, we got to this, and you know before we are halfway through, I kind of didn't understand what any of that meant, like, because I didn't really understand what the steps meant, or any sort of recovery program. And you know, I think it's kind of ironic, right? Because like you've said, and like I've said before, like the steps are a circle. Like when we get done with the steps, like when I get done with the steps, I'm gonna go right back around again. Like I'm never gonna get like to step 12 and be like I'm done, and never do it again. I have to live the steps in my life, if I want to live in contented sobriety.
Sure.
But before we are halfway through, I think I'm just starting, right, like now, to come to a realization of what that means. Like, because this passage is specifically speaking on the steps. It's right in the middle of the literature between steps 9 and 10. It's speaking on the active completion of the steps. And my understanding of it now, for me, is like, having finished step 5, moved on to step 6, is like, I'm whatever, if you want to say it's a 12-step program, and break it down like that, I'm about halfway done. Like, and it's funny, like, I'm like, it's very literal for me. I am amazed. Like, I am amazed at what has happened. Like, I looked at those steps, right, in the first meetings, and I was like, this fucking place is a cult. Like, this is ridiculous. And I am like, my life, and not like physically, not materially, like my material good. Like, it's not like I'm rich, and I've achieved, I'm debt free, and I've achieved complete financial security and everything else. But I'm amazed at the type of man that I am today. Like, and I'm not like a great, whatever, but I'm a stand-up dude. Like, I do what I say I'm gonna do. Like, I'm honest, to the best of my ability. And when I'm dishonest or make a mistake, I promptly admit it. Like,
Mm.
and the other part about this little, like, this first sentence is like that painstaking thing. You know what I mean? Like, I had to look that up, like, because I was like, what are we talking about here? Like, what is this? What does this fucking mean? Painstaking. Like, I go to, painstaking is we go to great lengths, and we take these steps like in such great detail and focus that we really try to not leave anything out. Like, and that's paramount for me, importance wise. Like, if I'm not painstaking, if I'm not going really to any length to like to take care of this, like each individual step, then I really don't think I'd be where I'm at. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying. I think I'm an English major too, so I love breaking down paragraphs. Uh the painstaking part, if I like the promises because it provides hope to someone that's really struggling, especially early, or not even early, just struggling at all. It's kind of like because there's stuff in the 12 steps and in AA that can feel like uh kind of like throwing your like taking on all this pain and resentments and making amends, and there's a lot of stuff that, oh, if you overplay your hand in certain areas in recovery or in AA, it can feel like I'm a terrible person and I did this and I did that. And so like the hope that is told to us in the promises is, I'm trying to put myself back when I first, would have tried to read it. I probably, wouldn't have believed it. And I think a lot of people don't, and the promises don't really come true until you do what the first sentence says.
Mm,
You're not going to be you're not going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. Now, like anything after that first sentence probably won't happen for you if you're an alcoholic and you don't work and you're not painstaking about this phase of your development. You know,
mm,
if you are
mm.
painstaking, right? It's all contingent on the if. And so for a lot of my recovery, I wasn't painstaking about my phase of my recovery. And I was amazed that I didn't get a new freedom. I was amazed that I didn't get new happiness. I was like, what the hell? Because, I wanted to have and there's a part, on the other side talking about self will,
Mm.
self seeking will slip away. I was self seeking in my recovery in terms of wanting to recover how I want to recover. And then nothing in the promises came true. So I wanted to just echo your point of keying in on the if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed. um, I agree with
The,
you. I
the
think
other
I had a
important part,
yeah,
the other important part too in there is like it says this phase, right? Like it doesn't say all phases. Like
yeah,
because I need to stay in the now. Like whatever phase that means, like if we are painstaking about this phase of our development. And I know it's kind of literally referring to step 9,
right.
like, but I kind of take that like that little bit of it is like it's not painstaking about the last phase. It's not painstaking about the next phase. It's painstaking about this phase right now.
Well,
Like
yeah,
because if I'm focused on that, like if I'm focused on the mistakes I made in that last part of my recovery, or if I'm anxious about how I'm going to get through this next step and this next part of my recovery, then I'm not going to take care of what's on my plate right now.
mm,
You know what I mean? Mm,
definitely. That's a good point. I think going into that next sentence,
mm,
like we were saying, all contingent on the if. This is where like that hope comes. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it.
mm,
Um, a new freedom and a new happiness. It's kind of like what comes with a 12 with sobriety that has like I know you and I have talked a lot about like that lightness that you and I have been feeling over the last like year through working the steps and those the freedom and like it's a I like literally felt a legitimate weights being lifted off of my shoulder, not feeling as heavy. I don't know how else to explain it after doing some of my inventories. And so I couldn't relate more to the new freedom and a new happiness. And because a lot of the old happiness is like the drug happiness or the
mm.
alcohol happiness and stuff. This is a new pure happiness, like is the best way I could describe it. But my favorite part out of what I just read, we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. That's the hardest one, bro. That's one that I'm still working on in my current phase. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. I don't think that a lot of us have an issue with not wanting to wish to shut the door on it because I think a lot of us, to an extent, are still working on not regretting the past. I think like a uh, someone that's like not someone. I'm not gonna say it like that. I don't know. What do you think about that one?
Dude, I mean, first of all, question like for you, new freedom, new happiness. Like I think it's phrased really well because, dude, I've never felt like it's perfectly phrased because I've never felt a happiness or a freedom like the one I'm feeling today. Like or what you know what I mean? Like because you said like before it was all contingent upon how high or drunk am I? Like how altered is my mind? Like and I've never really known a freedom. And a freedom is bless you, is a freedom
Thank you.
is physically it's the freedom from dependence on drugs and alcohol, but spiritually it's the freedom from that soul sickness. Like for me, it's like and it's really I can't really describe it any better. Is it's like that's all it was. As my soul was sick, it was diseased. And I mean, I guess, and I'll have the disease of alcoholism forever, but I don't have to be an active alcoholic. And if I'm not an active alcoholic, then like like that word you use, pure, is so right. Like, how crazy is it, man? Like that for you, you were 19 years old, 19, 20 years old. I was 23 years old. That like that far into our lives, like, having been alive over 2 decades, that we like it's isn't it crazy that, like, for real, like I feel like I discovered what freedom and happiness actually meant not until I was 23 years old. Like it's an insane thing.
Yeah.
Um and kind of to go into that regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Like, to be honest, dude, there are days when I want to slam the fucking door on the past. Like, it's this is the one that, like, and it's kind of funny that you say I love this, like that you love this one, because I fucking, like, sometimes I'm like, I fucking hate this line, like, because I want to shut the door on the past a lot of days, like, and it's something that I'm still working on understanding, and I think it's like maybe it has to do with being compassionate to ourselves. Is like, all right, we need to show our former, like, our former selves, like our active alcoholic selves, compassion, and we don't need to slam the door on what happened in the past, because we can look at it honestly and objectively if we work the program well. Like, we don't have to look at it with judgment or self-pity or hatred, or place blame on people or place blame on ourselves. We can just look at it like kind of with a detached sense of like, all right, that was an old me and now I'm different. Um, but I can't do that all the time, because the thing is there are still parts of me that are the same as that old person. Like,
Yeah.
there are still parts, and that's like where defects come in, is there are still parts of me that act the same, and that have the same kind of motives, and the same like resentments and hatred toward people. And because of that, like, shutting the door on the, like, I kind of go between two spots where I either want to like keep the door open and like walk through the door and go back into the past, or I just want to shut the fucking door. Like, I never want to just keep the door kind of cracked and just be like, all right, yeah, it happened, whatever. Like, I'm not really in that middle phase. And I think part of that too is you have a knowledge of where I am with the steps. Like, I finished step 5, but like I haven't really made true like amends to really anyone. I think that's sometimes why I'm like, fuck the, I don't want to look at anything that I have done. Like, I want to shut that door, lock it, throw away the key, and kind of like, because there's a lot of shame and guilt there. That, like, okay, keeping that door open for me almost seems like I'm allowing shame and guilt to continue to live in my life. But that just shows, right, that like the program for like, I'm working the steps. Like, I got to keep working the steps. I have to keep on with my program. But the regret piece is coming, right? Like, there are things, and I think part of the thing that helps is that, I've been taught, like, listen, we can't do anything about the past. Like, the only remedy we have for the past is to act right in the present. Like, and I don't know. Like, I think that brings me a lot of comfort.
Hmm. I agree with you. I think it's like that. What tripped me out so much, bro, about doing the steps, to be honest, is like, and it goes into the next line, like we will learn to comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. I didn't know peace really. I think the last time, and a lot of it's my own doing, right? As I found through my work, but
Mm.
the last time I remember having that like childlike peace of playfulness and happiness was when I was like a really little kid. And then I think at a certain point, I just started being resentful and hateful young, bro. And really, ever since then, peace was not something that I was comfortable with or wanted or had. So I think like when I fucking really got through the steps and really started using doing what I was told and working the steps and applying it to my daily life, I started to know what peace was
Right.
truly. And it was so obvious. It was so like overwhelming. That it was like a feeling of calm and peace that it was so against what I was used to that it stood out so much.
Mm.
And I think that's what really spurred a spiritual experience in me and what kind of spurred me to keep going with the steps, keep listening, keep doing what I was told, keep reading. Because once I got a taste of it, I was like, damn, there's people that walk around like this 24/7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
And
dude.
um, I think that's important to point out because I really didn't know. And it kind of trips me out because I thought I was fine for a long time in active addiction. I was like, you're good, you're good, you have fun, you do this, you do that, all exterior things, but inside was just anger,
Mm.
sadness, spite, blah, 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 blah. So when you get a taste of what the steps can provide you, you know, that's like what they're kind of talking about, how like you'll be amazed before you're halfway done. I think that's what I'm kind of trying to point out. I got a taste of that peace when I was around halfway done. And I was like, I got to rip this shit.
And if we comprehend the word serenity, what does that look like? What does serenity mean to you? Like, I think you kind of just answered that, but like it says, like, we will comprehend the word serenity. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, for me, like, when I came in and I'm still working on it, but like, I had no idea what serenity meant. Like, I really hadn't even heard it before I got in. Like if you were to ask me like when I was out there or right when I came in, like what does serenity mean? I would have been like if you have the perfect concoction of drugs and you're right at that point where it's just everything's perfect. Like and that's insane. Like because that's just that's me having to alter my mind so much that like me having to use substances to the point where I can't even like achieve any sort of peace if I'm not under the influence. Like and again,
That's
like
not
I don't
peace. It's
even
just quiet.
yeah, and then I didn't exactly like it's quiet, like it's dead, like it's there's no peace, like it's
Not
just a
peace.
dead brain, like and I don't think I like I also you said like I don't think I had achieved or experienced any sort of peace or serenity or just kind of total surrendered happiness since I was like a small child. Like, maybe like settling down for a nap. Like and just being like, oh, this blanket's really nice and warm, and that's really all I need in the world is this blanket. It's perfect. Like that probably was the last time that I was like just serene and happy because like you said, eventually like all these like the hamster wheel sets in and now my brain is going a mile a minute and I'm thinking about, you know, everything all the time. And serenity, serenity today for me means like that no matter what the external circumstances are, and you and I both know there's all sorts of external circumstances all the time. Like just because I got sober doesn't mean that everything gets fixed on the outside. That no matter what it is that I'm dealing with, that like I can be okay with myself. My blood pressure isn't gonna go up. I can keep myself at an even keel, do the right thing, and like look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day and say, you did the right thing today, Andrew. Um,
Mm.
and even in the midst of all the chaos, I can find some stillness. Like stillness is a big thing too. Like when I was active and even in early addiction, like I like to run around. I'm always doing. I gotta be at the gym. I gotta be active. I gotta be moving all the time. Like sitting still is something I was like otherworldly. Like sober, you want me to be sober and sit still, like and sit with my thoughts. Like I think serenity has something to do with like I can sit with my thoughts and not run away from them.
Yeah.
Like, and that's dude, sitting with your thoughts is fucking. It's impossible. Like it's difficult. So I don't know. It's
Not
hard.
impossible, but it is difficult. I think there's something I've been thinking about when you were talking, bro. that just
Mm.
like spurred some shit that I wanted to say, and it's related to the peace part and not knowing it. And I've had a couple like family members and friends after like certain episodes here and there, and I just wanted to make a more clear point on this, saying like I wish I could have done that, and I'm sorry I didn't do this, and forgive me. This is them saying this to me or something, or like, I'm sorry you didn't, I wasn't there for you when that happened or this happened. I want to make it like pretty clear that whenever we speak on this shit and past stuff, there's the resentments and stuff like that and whatever it was, like there's no, we're not saying this to get like a pat on the back or like I'm so sorry that happened to you. What a hard thing, or like I'm not saying it to throw anyone under the bus, or like I think a lot of, like, I just want to make it clear that a lot of the issues that we, Andrew and I, had, I don't know if you agree, but a lot of it is just like shit that we like did, whether it was like physically to ourselves, mentally to ourselves, interpreting situations incorrectly. Obviously there were wrongs, potentially done unto us, but I feel like after I went through these 12 steps, I found that the majority of that shit was right here.
All of
uh
it.
yeah, you feel me? And so I want to make a point that we're never trying to be like, I'm the product of a terrible childhood, or I'm a product of, obviously shit happens here and there and experiences, but a lot of them we put ourselves into. And I just wanted to make a point of that because like the whole peace thing could have been misconstrued as like, he's in a toxic childhood environment, or he had a bad high school environment or a bad college environment. And I don't want that. I don't want it to get twisted like that.
No, hell no, bro. I had a toxic internal environment.
Right, right,
Like
right. Exactly.
I had wanted for nothing. I mean, we know that. I mean, you and I both know our stories, and I think that's a good point. But like, it wasn't because of any external condition or any relationship that I had with anyone. It was a relationship with myself the whole time that caused this lack of peace. It was my decisions, it was my
Yeah.
emotions, it was my resentments. Every single time that I write a resentment down, I end up turning the finger back to me, like, oh well, that was my brain. Like, you know, um,
Yeah.
all
I
right,
just thought that was important to point out.
moving kind of on to this next section.
The feeling
No,
of uselessness. Is that where we're at?
no matter how
No
far
matter.
down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. It kind of ties into the next two, that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. Um, I mean, this is like this whole passage and this whole promises section is just kind of like filled and saturated with hope, like for me, like and this kind of two sentences sums up that hope pretty well. Like, no matter how bad I was, like on the other side of it, there is something that I can offer if I'm working these steps. Like, and if I'm living in recovery, if I'm living as a man in recovery, I can offer something to somebody else that might help. Like, in my experience in life, in active addiction, and then in recovery, like it might be able to help someone else. Like, and that's something, dude. Like, I when I was active, like I thought I was, I was pretty much, although I maybe put on a face, like I put on a face like of a big ego and everything else. Like, what was really going on in my heart and in my mind was that my internal dialogue was that I was useless, that I was a piece of shit, that nobody really like, that all I really could do from people was steal like from them and lie to them and be bad to them, and that nobody could really like, I couldn't offer anything to anybody that was really useful or beneficial or healthy or loving or anything. Like, so, and that's something I've seen in recovery. Probably one of the biggest changes too. And I don't know, you could speak on it, but one of the biggest changes is that I don't feel like a piece of shit so much anymore. Like, I feel not necessarily that I'm carrying the word of God with me and that everybody should listen to what I say and that I'm a huge benefit that like whatever, like that you should listen to my story and I'm going to help so many people, but that I can be a good listener, or I can be a shoulder to cry on, or I can carry on a conversation with a family member, like little things that I really couldn't do when I was active,
I agree with you.
you
I think
know.
it's kind of like along the lines of the newcomer's voice is kind of potentially the strongest voice in the room. Like no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others.
Mm,
I've had experiences sitting in rooms like I can't offer anything to this fucking room. There's nothing I could say that could help anyone in here. And I think like through working the steps and um, going through all the things that we go through, that uselessness, self-pity will disappear. Yeah, like in the last year, I just started being able to like fully hold eye contact with people.
mm,
That's fucking crazy. I remember this one of my buddies, Rex, from a meeting. He was like, uh, when I first got into meetings, he was sitting next to me and he like nudged me. He was like, "You don't look people in the eyes." This is like an old timer. And I was like, that fucked me up. I had no idea. I mean, I guess I did, but I didn't. And I was like, damn. And then I was like, now I gotta really look now. And then I was making really weird eye contact, like like I'm definitely gonna look you in the eyes, but like through working the steps, I it's getting more comfortable with you. Like you're just more comfortable with like looking at someone, and it's kind of like, dude, I heard this guy talk a month ago. I think I talked about him on one of the podcasts, but he was like one of those dudes that just like illuminates energy. Like
mm,
he's looking at everyone in the face. He was talking about how free he is, gets up and prays. He has like a ton of sponsees, works the program, came from wild shit. That doesn't matter. And like all that matters is now. I mean, this guy was spitting, bro. Like, and I went up to him after and shook his hand, and it was just like, and it's like one of those like just energy people, not energy in terms of like hyper energy in terms of like higher power shit, like for real. Like this dude was, and I was like, damn, I want to be like you. Like it's a lot of um losing interest in selfish things and gaining interest in our fellows type thing. Like it's just talking about removing that self-will there, I guess. Like um self-seeking will slip away. Not all the way,
I'm
but
about to say, not for me.
it's important to point out that this is, if we bring it back to the first page, if we are painstaking about this phase of development. So Andrew and I are both in our own current phases of development, and uh, all of these things are promised, in continued hardworking sobriety. Not that we're not continuing or not being hardworking, but it is good to see them because it's good to highlight like when one of those has happened for you. Like if you can
Mm-hmm.
do one, you can do 10. You feel me? So if I can get that
Mm-hmm.
piece, I know that I could, at some point, will be relieved of selfish things and gain full interest in my fellows, and self-seeking will fully be removed from me. You know what I mean?
Right. It's incremental, like you just
Right.
said. Like it's not like it's not like either self-seeking has fully been removed from me or not at all. It's
Right.
like I do things now for others that I wouldn't do in the past. Like you work at a treatment center, I work at a treatment center. I'm not saying we're like morally higher than anyone else because of that,
Right.
but that's something we would have never done in active addiction or even
Amen.
probably really early in our recoveries. Like that's a change. That's an incremental self-seeking beginning to slip away. Like giving people rides, trying to help the newcomer. Like these are things that are incrementally happening. But for
Good point.
myself, like have I fully done it? No, I do things for selfish and self-seeking reasons all the time. Like it's a habit that is very, very deep, like ingrained in me. Um, and it crosses into every realm of my life, relationships, like family, spiritual stuff. Like I'll pray. Sometimes I get caught up, like, and I'm praying every day and it's great. But then I look at what I'm praying and I'm praying just for me. And then I'm like, oh shit. Like, here we go again. Like it pervades into every area of my life. And that's like going and like it bleeds right into the next thing. Like our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Like, yeah, some things have changed, a lot of things have changed, but some haven't yet. Like, and some things go back and forth. Like it's all contingent upon my spiritual condition that day. Like in this phase, how am I feeling with that whole attitude thing? Like, not great sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, I just want to like fucking shoot someone. I'm pissed off. Like I'm angry. Like it's sometimes like Mitch knows, and sometimes I'm like Mr. Buddha meditating and peaceful, and I want to go join a monastery. Like it it goes back and forth. And want to know why? Because I'm an addict. Because things
Mm.
oscillate back and forth for me, but it's starting to oscillate a little bit closer to a healthier place.
Amen. You're
You know what I
spitting
mean?
bars right now, my boy. Yeah, the whole like, I got nothing to say on top of that. You murdered that. I think the fear of the just to try to keep us chopping along. Because I mean, that was fucking fact. That was facts. Fear of people and of economic. Damn. Fear of people and economic. Why can't I say that word?
Economic, bro. You need to
Econ,
drink some more coffee.
dude. Whoa. Economic. I said economic. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. I think that one, along the lines of what you were just saying, comes and goes in waves. Comes and goes how much I'm working my program. Yeah, and I actually really had this like a couple months ago. I was like not making much money, and I was like talking to my sponsor, and he was like, have you always been provided for? And I was like, yes. Have you always been taken care of? And he was like, yes. And he was like, you think that's going to continue? And I was like, I hope so. And he was like, okay. And I was like, after I told him like, I think I'm going to be broke and I'm going to be homeless and I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that. And he was like, has that ever happened before? And I was like, no. And then I ended up getting like the job, like the rehab job and everything. So uh, but I did, even when I'm getting like my paychecks there and stuff like that, I'll be like, oh, this is not enough. This is not that blah, blah, blah. Enough for what? Like I pay my rent, I pay my car, I pay my phone, I pay still make
Done.
it.
Yep.
Uh, Going into the next part, we
Let
will.
me speak real quick on that. Like,
Okay. Oh yeah, fear of people too.
yeah, about to say, I'm still scared of a lot of people. Like, not not scared, not scared as in like I'm scared they're gonna like murder me or like I fear for my life, but I fear interactions with them. Like, and again, that's a selfish thing. Like, it's really nothing that anybody has done to me. It's stuff that's built into my head, like preconceived notions or ideas of, you ever do that thing where you just build up how bad an interaction's going to be before it happens, like crazy,
Yep.
like, and then it happens and it's not anything like you built it up to be, and you're like, wow, I can't believe I was so nervous about that. um but I still do that with a lot of things. And then another important thing to point out about this little sentence is, like, it doesn't say economic insecurity is going to leave us. Like, I am economically insecure right now. I'm not going to sit here and say like that I'm doing fucking, marvelous, that I'm bringing in fucking millions of dollars a year. But like, I sat down and my sponsor said, he said, read it again. And he said, bring, like, take out the people part. And I said, okay. Fear of economic insecurity will leave us. He was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good point.
He's like, you're getting rid of the fear. He's like, that's what you need to get, like. And I was like, okay. And that's something again that I still work on, because like you, I'm like, all right, I need to pay for this and this and this, and I want this and this. And but I think little by little that fear will slip away of like, oh, I'm gonna be homeless and I'm not gonna be provided for. Like, no, man, like as long as I'm being a good person, like, you know, I might fall on hard times or whatever, but I'm never not gonna be taken care of. Like, and that's a gift of the program. Um,
Yeah. And dude, bro, it's like you have so many like friends and family and stuff like that that like if it worst came to worst, like we have so much access to like fail safes,
mhm.
just because of like where like our situations. I truly believe that.
We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us.
I'm gonna add one word in, and maybe they'll add it into the next edition. We will intuitively know how to handle some more situations which used to baffle us. Yeah, no.
I don't know. A
No.
lot still baffles me. I don't know
Yeah,
about you.
I think as everyone's watching, we're getting through towards the end of the promises. It's like, no, uh, yeah, no, I definitely have a calm that came actually from finishing the steps in situations, and I think like working at the treatment center and working with kids and working just with my friends and stuff like that, I have much different reactions to things. I think it was what I can relate to on that sentence is like different situations and interactions with people I handle differently than I would have before. Like, if it's like with a family member, maybe before I would have handled it with hanging up or yelling,
Mm,
or with a friend, I would have handled it with passive aggressiveness or not talking to them for a while or sending them a message subliminally, some petty stuff. And whereas now, if there's an issue, it might look like a positive, constructive phone call or a lunch, or instead of yelling back, just listening or not responding. I
mm,
think that's how I relate to that sentence.
mm. Well, and I think again for me, it's funny because I've said this like 4 times now, but it bleeds into the next thing. Like God, the next sentence is we will suddenly realize God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Like I don't know how to handle situations that baffle me. Like I don't. Or that used to be. I really don't. I some things my reactions have changed. Like I don't react violently and emotionally like you said, or with like pettiness and resentment and anger and subliminal messages and angry phone calls and yelling, and I don't do that really anymore, and that's a great victory, I think, but it doesn't mean I've figured out how to handle the situation.
Right.
um I think what it is for me is I've turned it like the fact of the matter is that I'll never know how to handle a lot of situations, and that's okay. I think
That's the
the
fun part.
difference is that I've handed over some of that willpower that I had and like the need to control to my higher power. Like, and that's that next part is like I can't do it. Like I can't. Like, and it's not like through this program I learned how to do a lot of things which I couldn't do, and that's great. But like there are situations, people, places, things, interactions, problems that have come up that I really don't know how to deal with.
Mm.
And the difference between now and then is that back then, I'll grind my teeth, make a fool out of myself, piss people off, make enemies, create worse situations by trying to fix these situations. Whereas now, more and more of the time, I take a deep breath and I'll throw a prayer out, or I'll meditate on it, or I'll just be like, you know what? I can't address this problem. I can be a good person, but I can't fucking do anything about this, but hand it over to God.
Mm.
And that's like, it's not like when I first got in, I thought it was a cop out, right? Like I'd be like, no, like I need control. Like, what do you mean hand it over to God? Like you're just being lazy. But really, that's the hardest thing to do.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it's very like it's a sacrifice of ego and self will, and it's powerful and it's freeing. You know, yeah,
Yeah, I think that's the most important part of the whole thing really is that we will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves.
Mhm.
That's been like very relieving, like you were saying, for
Mm,
me, and very like um the opposite happened of what I thought was gonna happen.
mhm,
Like when I thought I would when I first was like, you mean I can't drive the car anymore, like I like driving the car and
mhm,
we're gonna crash if I drive the car. And we actually got somewhere faster when I took my hands off. So uh I think that was very powerful for me. The higher power thing was life changing, truly.
Mm.
And then the most iconic part of the whole thing here is there's a paragraph break into the final little short paragraph. Are these extravagant promises? Which I
We
think is
think
pretty
not.
funny to like, yeah, I think it's pretty funny to ask a question like that because it's almost like the reader was, knows that alcoholics are reading this because as an alcoholic reading the promises, you're like, this is fucking insane. Like,
Hmm.
and that's why it says, are these extravagant promises? uh, we think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Well, a lot of what you were talking about the whole time, right there. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will materialize if we work for them. Love it.
Mm. Mm. That
So,
qualifier at the
yeah,
end.
that last sentence, they will materialize if we
If,
work for them.
big if, none of this is given to us, right?
No.
I, I worked the way I like qualify it is like I worked really hard at the end, like to get high. Like I worked really fucking hard to stay out of my head, like to keep my mind altered is a lot of work. Like if I want these changes, like in a sober brain, a sober heart, like if I want these changes to occur, I need to work twice. I need to work just as hard and then harder,
Yep.
like in this new way of life. And it's funny. It's not like the work that like we traditionally think. Like a lot of it is writing. There's a lot of writing involved and everything else, but some of the work is not material. Like the work is all in our brains and in our hearts. It's like it's prayer and meditation. It's making decisions. It's and how we talk and how we respond. Like and I don't know. I just love that last sentence, like because it's very hopeful in the beginning, but then it's also like a it's like a demand. It's not like a malicious demand, but it's a demand. It's like these things will always happen. They always have. They happen quickly. They happen slowly. But they happen. But only if you work for them. Like I don't know. It's a good way to round it out.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you for ripping those with me, ripping that thing. Yeah, you're spitting bars today, my boy.
I don't know. I feel strongly about the promises because I hated them when I came in. I said none of these things will happen. I can get all of these things if I can just get high. Like, but like it was all fake. Like, none of it was real. So as they've slowly started to happen, like it it's opened my eyes to like it makes you want to work harder, right?
Yep.
Like the more of
Yeah.
these things that happen.
Yeah. Once you get a taste of that
Exactly.
purity, I guess
Yeah,
some
I'm an
more.
addict. Like, you give me something that's pleasurable. I
Right.
want all. Let's go. Let's do this.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for everyone that tuned into this one, episode 31. Looks like we'll have a guest back next week.
Mm.
Who is that guest?
His name is Mike. He went to treatment with me, and
Oh,
he's
hell
got a
yeah.
really really powerful story. Um, really cool message, and yeah, he's a good dude. We've had Dan on, and it's funny. It kind of matches his energy. It'll be a good time.
Oh, I'm hyped for that. That'd be sick. Yeah. Excited for that. And thank you to everyone that has been, I know this is kind of like the sweaty part of it, but subscribing, liking the videos and all that stuff. We really do appreciate that. We're like a good amount. I remember we used to like have a joke of like, we're at 51, who's going to be 52? I don't really know where we're at right now, but we appreciate you subscribing and liking the videos and showing your friends and stuff like that. It's been cool to see things grow naturally without me buying a Facebook ad. Because I'm not
We're
gonna do it.
growing organically.
Yeah, that's right,
Organic
baby.
growth.
I don't care if it takes 5 million episodes. No, it's all good. Today was truly like similarly to the last one, or not. I guess well they all are really, but really felt like a meeting for me, and I really needed a meeting this morning. So thank you, Andrew, for that. I really do appreciate you,
I
and
did too,
thank you to
brother.
everyone that's listening. And we will keep coming back.
I'll keep coming back. Thank you, Mitch. Love you, man.
Love you too.